Imagine a world where the lights, sounds, and breathtaking visuals of grand events rely not only on technology, but on the resilience and ingenuity of a dedicated team. Behind the stunning displays and seamless performances lies a high-stakes battle of creativity, precision, and even sabotage. In this gripping tale, we step into the bustling, chaotic world of Lume Dynamics, a top-tier event production company navigating through an international crisis that tests their limits. What starts as an ambitious event in the opulent city of Dubai soon spirals into a whirlwind of sabotage, hidden rivalries, and nail-biting technical challenges. Each member of the team must rise to the occasion, showcasing their strengths while uncovering the lengths their competitors will go to claim victory. Will this team prevail and deliver a show worthy of their reputation, or will the shadows of sabotage overshadow their efforts? It's a story of determination, camaraderie, and the electrifying tension of working under fire, literally and figuratively. If you love stories of teamwork under pressure and suspense that keeps you on edge, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more exciting content. Let the show begin. Chapter 1. Racing Against the Sun. The first faint light of morning stretched across the skyline of Sao Paulo, casting a golden glow over the bustling city. It was 7:15 a.m., and at the local headquarters of Lume Dynamics, a top-tier full-service event company, the day was just beginning. Known globally for their cutting-edge expertise in sound, lighting, LED panels, laser setups, video management, and online streaming, their work brought life to corporate events, international expos, TV productions, and spectacular concerts worldwide. Among the hum of activity, 5 key players stood out in the team. Lucas, the technical coordinator, was the go-to problem solver, with an uncanny ability to find solutions others overlooked. Sophia, the lighting designer, thrived on creating breathtaking visual experiences, but often wrestled with perfectionism. Raul, the video technician, was passionate about the latest technology, but never hesitated to challenge decisions under pressure. Then there was Marina, the live streaming specialist, whose calm demeanor masked the weight of ensuring seamless broadcasts to global audiences. And finally, Tiago, the eager new hire, brought fresh ideas and energy, but lacked the experience to handle the storm they were about to face. This wasn't going to be just another day at work. Their largest client, a major U.S. multinational, had booked Lume Dynamics to orchestrate a high-profile event on the luxurious coast of Dubai. Weeks of meticulous preparation had gone into assembling every piece of equipment, from LED panels to intricate laser systems. Lucas, armed with his clipboard, double-checked inventory while Sophia pored over color schemes that would reflect the elegance of the venue with shimmering golds and deep navy blues. But their plans began unraveling before they even reached the airport. Word came from their local Dubai contacts. A Korean subcontractor hired by their rival company had sabotaged critical LED panel controls. A deliberate configuration error had rendered the digital strips essential to synchronizing visuals completely useless. For an event destined to be streamed live to millions, this was nothing short of disaster. On the plane to Dubai, tension filled the cabin as Lucas reviewed their contingency options. The problem? Replacement parts were scarce and located halfway across the globe, making timely fixes nearly impossible. "We've got less than 24 hours to salvage this," Lucas said grimly, his voice heavy with the weight of their predicament. Seated around the small airplane table, the team exchanged uneasy glances. Sophia leaned in, trying to sound optimistic. "We could reprogram the laser display to mask any panel glitches. It might even add some dynamic flair." Raul was quick to counter. "That's too risky without proper calibration. If the lasers malfunction, we'll only make things worse." Marina finally spoke up, her voice steady and measured. "Whatever happens on site, the online audience cannot detect any failures. We need to prioritize the stream, even if it means sacrifices elsewhere." Tiago, with his characteristic enthusiasm, chimed in. "What if we reimagine the entire concept? A minimalist approach could feel intentional and modern." The brainstorming spiraled into a heated debate. Lucas remained silent, absorbing the conflicting ideas. He knew that the solution would require not only creativity but collaboration, something they struggled with under pressure. When they landed in Dubai, things only went downhill. A sudden sandstorm delayed equipment unloading for hours. Meanwhile, their rivals, relaxed and smug, watched from a distance, their satisfaction evident. As Lume Dynamics finally gained access to their setup area, the extent of the sabotage became painfully clear. Wires were misplaced, digital configurations contradicted instruction manuals, and the installation schedule was slipping by the minute. The clock was ticking, and Lucas could feel the weight of his team's gazes on him. He closed his eyes briefly, steadying himself for the long night ahead. "Everything hinges on tomorrow," he murmured to no one in particular. Outside, the storm over Dubai showed no sign of letting up, its swirling sands a reflection of the chaos within the team. In the distance, the rival company's logo shone brightly, a silent but infuriating reminder of the stakes. Chapter 2. The Unraveling Plan. The sandstorm finally settled as dawn approached, revealing a skyline cloaked in golden hues and the shadow of sleepless tension. The clock now read 7 a.m., and the team at Lume Dynamics had barely rested. Inside the vast, high-ceilinged event space, they stared at the semi-functional setup before them, miles of tangled wires, misaligned LED panels, and a sense of impending doom. Lucas paced back and forth, clipboard in hand, the skin around his knuckles white from gripping a pen too tightly. "We're officially 12 hours from showtime," he announced, his voice sharp. "If we don't get these panels running, we may as well book flights back home." Sophia glanced at the diagrams spread across a nearby table, her eyes glassy from exhaustion. "I can reconfigure the lighting effects to compensate," she began, but the lack of conviction in her tone betrayed her. "Maybe we can spotlight the performers and downplay the screens?" Raoul scoffed from behind a stack of video equipment. "The screens are the centerpiece, Sophia. We can't downplay what's supposed to make this event groundbreaking." His bluntness earned him a glare from Sophia, but neither had the energy to argue further. Marina, meanwhile, sat cross-legged on the floor, her laptop balanced precariously on her knees. She was running simulations for the live stream, watching as error messages popped up like relentless taunts. "If the panels don't sync, the live audience will see glitches," she said quietly. "There's no way to edit that out in real time." Tiago, determined to stay positive, raised his hand as if in a classroom. "What if we—" "No more what-ifs, Tiago." Lucas cut him off, though not unkindly. "We need solutions, not ideas." The room fell silent, save for the hum of machinery and the occasional static crackle of a walkie-talkie. Each person was lost in their thoughts, trying to conjure a miracle from the chaos. But miracles don't come easily, and the pressure was beginning to fracture the team's unity. Suddenly, a sharp knock echoed through the event hall. A young local technician entered, his face partially obscured by a bandana still dusty from the storm. "Excuse me," he said in accented English, "I was told to bring this to you." He held up a small, nondescript case. Lucas took the case cautiously and opened it to reveal a set of replacement digital strips, the exact components they'd been searching for. A wave of relief swept through the team, but it was short-lived. "These aren't ours," Marina pointed out, her sharp eyes narrowing. "Where did they come from?" The technician hesitated. I don't know. My manager just said to deliver them." Lucas examined the strips closely, his instinctive distrust flaring. If these were from their rivals, they could be another act of sabotage. But there was no time to investigate. "We'll test them," he said firmly. "Raoul, can you check if these are compatible?" Raoul sighed but nodded, taking the case to the testing station. As he worked, the tension in the room grew palpable. Sophia pulled Lucas aside. "What if this is a trap?" she whispered. "If those strips cause more damage, we'll be even worse off." "I know," Lucas replied, his voice low, "but we don't have a choice. If we don't use them, we fail. If they don't work, we fail anyway." Minutes felt like hours as Raoul painstakingly ran diagnostics on the strips. Finally, he turned to face the group, his expression unreadable. They're functional, he announced, though his voice lacked enthusiasm. But barely. Lucas didn't hesitate. Install them. We'll recalibrate as we go. The team sprang into action, their exhaustion momentarily forgotten. Marina coordinated with the local technicians to secure the livestream feed, while Sophia adjusted the lighting to complement the partially restored LED panels. Tiago, desperate to prove himself, volunteered to handle the laser configurations. A risky task that earned him a skeptical glance from Lucas, but a nod of approval nonetheless. As the hours ticked by, progress was made, though at a painstakingly slow pace. The LED panels began to flicker to life, their vibrant colors cutting through the gloom of the massive hall. But there was still a long way to go, and each success felt fragile, as though it could crumble at the slightest misstep. By mid-afternoon, the team gathered for a brief moment of respite. Lucas handed out protein bars from his backpack, the closest thing they'd had to a meal in over a day. We're not out of the woods yet, he reminded them, though his tone was softer now. But we're making progress. Keep it up. Just as the words left his mouth, an alarm sounded from the control station. Raoul rushed over, his heart sinking as he saw the issue. The main control unit just crashed, he called out. We're locked out of the system. A collective groan filled the room. Lucas ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. They were back to square one, and the clock was still mercilessly ticking. Chapter 3. Cracks in the foundation. The atmosphere in the event hall grew heavier as the reality of their situation began to set in. The relentless ticking of the clock mirrored the rising tension among the team. The failed control unit had thrown them into a deeper pit, and for the first time, doubt began to creep into the minds of even the most resolute. Lucas rubbed his temples, his thoughts racing as he faced the malfunction. How did this even happen? He muttered to himself before turning to Raoul. Can you fix it? Raoul was already at the control station, his fingers dancing across the keyboard as he tried to restart the system. I'm trying, he said through gritted teeth, frustration evident in his voice. But if the core software is corrupted, it could take hours to rebuild. We don't have that kind of time. Sophia, standing nearby, crossed her arms as her anxiety bubbled to the surface. We should have seen this coming. Everything about this job has been a mess since the start. What if they tampered with more than just the LED panels? That's enough, Sophia. Lucas interjected, his tone sharper than he intended. Pointing fingers isn't going to solve anything. The silence that followed was thick with unease. Tiago, standing awkwardly to the side, finally spoke up, his voice timid but earnest. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise? If we can't use the main system, we could, try running things manually? It's old school, but Marina, who had been quietly observing the group, chimed in. He might be onto something. If we can bypass the main control unit and set up individual controls for each section, lights, panels, lasers, it'll be chaotic, but at least we'll have some control. Lucas considered the suggestion. It was risky and would require an immense amount of coordination, but it might be their only option. All right, he said after a pause. Let's split up and tackle this section by section. Raoul, focus on isolating the system. Marina, prioritize the streaming setup. Sophia, reprogram the lighting directly. Tiago, let me handle the lasers. Tiago interrupted, his eagerness overriding his nerves. I've been studying the configurations since we got here. I can do this. Lucas hesitated, but seeing the determination in Tiago's eyes, he relented. Fine, but I'm checking your work before you turn anything on. As the team dispersed, each taking on their designated tasks, the hall buzzed with frantic energy. Sophia crouched over a console, her fingers flying across the controls as she adjusted the lighting presets. Marina coordinated with the local techs, ensuring the livestream backup feeds were online. Tiago worked methodically, his face a mask of concentration as he aligned the laser emitters. Meanwhile, Raoul sat hunched over the control unit, his frustration mounting with every error code that flashed on the screen. This doesn't make sense, he muttered. The system isn't just malfunctioning, it's like someone rewrote the entire framework. Sabotage. Lucas asked, kneeling beside him. Raoul nodded grimly. Has to be. But this level of precision, it's like they knew exactly how to cripple us. Lucas clenched his fists, anger simmering beneath his calm exterior. The rival team had pushed them to the brink, and now it was personal. We're not letting them win, he said, his voice firm. Whatever it takes, we're pulling this off. As hours passed, the team made progress, albeit slowly. The LED panels flickered to life one by one. The lighting began to sync with the music cues, and the lasers, under Tiago's careful supervision, cast vibrant beams across the hall. It wasn't perfect, but it was functional. Just as a sliver of hope began to emerge, a new problem arose. The venue's power supply, already strained by the storm and the sabotage, began to falter. Lights flickered, equipment buzzed ominously, and the room was plunged into semi-darkness. Not now, Sophia groaned, her frustration boiling over. We're finally getting somewhere, and now this? The power grid can't handle the load, Marina observed, her voice calm despite the chaos. If we don't redistribute the energy usage, we'll blow a fuse. And then we're really done. Lucas exhaled sharply, his mind racing to find a solution. We'll have to shut down non-essential systems. Raoul, can you reroute power to the critical components? I can try, Raoul said, already moving toward the power hub. But it's a delicate balance. Too much strain, and the whole thing collapses. As Raoul worked to stabilize the power, Lucas gathered the rest of the team. Listen, we're running out of time. We need to focus on the essentials. LED panels, lighting, and the live stream. Forget everything else. But the lasers, Tiago began, but Lucas cut him off. We don't have a choice, he said firmly. Prioritize what we know we can deliver. Tiago nodded reluctantly, the disappointment clear on his face. He had been so close to proving himself, and now his work was being sidelined. The team redoubled their efforts, pouring every ounce of energy into the remaining systems. The minutes slipped away, and as the event's start time approached, the tension in the room reached a breaking point. Every flicker of a light, every glitch on a screen felt like a dagger to the team's collective resolve. Finally, as the clock struck 6 p.m., the systems were as ready as they could be. The LED panels shone brightly, the lights cast a dazzling array of colors, and the live stream feed was stable. It wasn't the grand spectacle they had envisioned, but it was enough to survive the night. As the team stood together, surveying their work, a sense of exhaustion and quiet pride settled over them. They had faced the impossible and emerged, if not victorious, at least intact. But as they prepared for the event to begin, Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that the rival team wasn't finished with them yet. The night was far from over, and the real challenge was only just beginning. Chapter 4. The Hidden Threat. The event hall was now fully alive with the hum of machinery and the dazzling glow of LED panels. The once chaotic atmosphere had settled into a tense calm as the team watched their hard work take shape. The audience was set to arrive within the hour, and everything appeared to be under control for now. Lucas stood near the control station, his eyes scanning every detail of the setup. The weight of the past 24 hours still hung heavy on his shoulders, but he allowed himself a moment of cautious optimism. We've managed to patch things together, he thought, his hand resting on the edge of the console. But we're not out of the woods yet. Sophia approached, holding a tablet that displayed the lighting sequences she'd meticulously adjusted. The lights are synced, and the transitions look smooth, she reported. It's not perfect, but it'll hold up. Lucas nodded, giving her a small but genuine smile. Good work. Let's keep it that way. Across the room, Tiago was fine-tuning the laser system, his enthusiasm restored despite the earlier setback. He adjusted the angles and tested the beams, which now danced across the hall in vibrant patterns. This is going to blow them away, he muttered to himself, a hint of pride in his voice. Marina, seated at her streaming station, monitored the live feed, ensuring that the cameras captured every angle flawlessly. She glanced at Lucas and gave him a thumbs up. Stream is stable, she called out. We're good to go on my end. Raoul, however, remained uneasy. He had spent the last hour examining the rival team's mysterious replacement parts and couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The components worked, but there was an underlying complexity to them that didn't sit right. He approached Lucas, lowering his voice. "I need to talk to you." Lucas looked up from his clipboard, immediately noticing the concern etched on Raul's face. "What is it?" "These parts, they're too advanced," Raul began, his tone measured but serious. "Whoever made them knew exactly what they were doing. It's almost like they wanted us to use them." Lucas frowned, his mind racing. "You think it's another trap?" Raul hesitated. "I don't know, but it feels deliberate. We've been running tests, and everything checks out. But what if there's something we're missing?" Before Lucas could respond, a commotion erupted near the venue's main entrance. A member of the local tech crew rushed in, his expression panicked. "We've got a problem," he said, his voice tinged with urgency. "The rival team, they're claiming credit for the LED panels. They're saying they supplied the replacements because we couldn't fix the issue." The room fell silent as the weight of the accusation sank in. Sophia clenched her fists, her frustration boiling over. "That's a lie. They sabotaged us in the first place." Lucas took a deep breath, his mind working quickly to assess the situation. "This isn't about what they're saying," he said firmly. "It's about what happens next. If they're trying to take credit, it's because they think they've outplayed us. We need to stay ahead." As the rival team's claims spread through whispers and glances among the venue staff, Lucas called the team together. "Listen up," he began, his voice steady but intense. "They're trying to undermine us, but we're not going to let them. We've come too far to let them take this from us." Marina raised an eyebrow. "What's the plan?" "We focus on what we can control," Lucas replied. "The performance, the visuals, the stream, it all has to be flawless. If we deliver an unforgettable experience, no one will care about their claims." The team nodded, their determination renewed. But deep down, Lucas knew the rival team wouldn't stop there. He had a feeling they had one final trick up their sleeves, and he needed to be ready for it. As the audience began to file into the venue, the tension in the air was palpable. The lights dimmed, the music swelled, and the event was finally underway. The team watched from the control room as their work came to life on the stage, the LED panels shimmering with vibrant colors and the lasers slicing through the air in perfect harmony. For a moment, it seemed as though they had succeeded. But then, without warning, one of the LED panels flickered and went dark. Marina's heart sank as she saw the glitch reflected in the livestream feed. "We've got a problem," she said, her voice steady but urgent. Lucas leaned over her shoulder, his eyes narrowing as he analyzed the issue. "It's one of the replacement strips," he muttered. "They've embedded some kind of delay into the system. What do we do?" Raul asked, already moving to the backup console. "We improvise," Lucas said decisively. "Sophia, adjust the lighting to draw attention away from the panel. Marina, reroute the camera angles to avoid showing it. Tiago, increase the laser effects in that area. We need to mask this before anyone notices." The team sprang into action, their movements precise and coordinated despite the chaos. Within minutes, the glitch was effectively hidden, and the show continued without further incident. But Lucas knew this was only a temporary fix. The rival team's sabotage had revealed its true intent, and the stakes were higher than ever. As the first act of the event concluded, the audience erupted into applause, seemingly unaware of the challenges unfolding behind the scenes. Lucas allowed himself a brief moment of relief before turning to his team. "We've made it this far," he said, his voice calm but resolute. "Let's finish this." Yet, in the back of his mind, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was still to come. Chapter 5: Cracks and Collisions. The backstage tension was palpable as the team regrouped after the first act. The applause from the audience had temporarily bolstered their spirits, but Lucas could sense the underlying exhaustion and stress in everyone's movements. They had navigated one hurdle, but the night was far from over. In the control room, Raul had returned to the diagnostic station, his brow furrowed as he analyzed the glitch in the LED panel. The delay wasn't random, he muttered to himself, loud enough for Lucas to overhear. This was designed to fail, Mid-show. Are you saying they planted a time bomb in the system? Lucas asked, leaning over Raul's shoulder. Not a literal bomb, but close enough, Raul replied. It's like someone coded a self-destruct sequence into the replacement strips. If we don't figure out how to neutralize it, the panels could cascade and go down completely during the next act. Lucas's jaw tightened. Can you fix it? I'll try, Raul said, but his tone was less than confident. I need more time. Time. The one thing they didn't have. Meanwhile, Sophia and Tiago were stationed near the stage, making last-minute adjustments to the lighting and lasers for the second act. Sophia glanced at Tiago, who was meticulously aligning the emitters. You've got a steady hand, she remarked, surprising herself with the compliment. I guess you're not as green as I thought. Tiago grinned, his nerves momentarily easing. Thanks. I've been studying your work. You're kind of a legend. Sophia smirked, the corner of her mouth lifting slightly. Don't let it go to your head. We've still got a long night ahead. As they spoke, Marina joined them, her tablet in hand. I've got a backup stream ready to go if anything else fails, she said, her voice steady. But we need to stay ahead of this. The rival team is watching, and they'll jump on any chance to discredit us. What's their endgame, anyway? Tiago asked. It's not just sabotage. They're trying to humiliate us. They want our client, Sophia said bluntly. If they can make us look incompetent, they'll swoop in and offer to fix everything. It's a classic power play. Marina nodded. And so far, it's working. We need to turn this around. Back at the control room, Lucas was formulating a plan. He pulled Sophia and Tiago aside, explaining the situation with the sabotaged LED panels. We need to take the focus off the screens, he said. Can you amplify the lasers and lighting for the next act? Make it so spectacular that no one notices the panels. We can do that, Sophia said, though her tone carried a hint of doubt. But it's risky. If we push the systems too hard, they might overheat. We don't have a choice, Lucas replied. It's either this or the entire show collapses. As the second act began, the team's coordinated efforts paid off. The lights and lasers stole the show, creating a mesmerizing display that left the audience in awe. For a brief moment, it seemed as though they had regained control. But then, just as the final sequence of the act was about to begin, the main power grid surged. Sparks flew from one of the laser emitters, and the stage was plunged into darkness. Gasps rippled through the audience, and panic flared backstage. What just happened? Lucas demanded, rushing to the control room. Raul was already at the power hub, frantically flipping switches and checking connections. The grid's overloaded, he said. I told you this might happen. We need to get the lights back on now, Lucas said, his voice cutting through the chaos. Marina quickly switched the live stream to a holding screen, masking the blackout from the online audience. We've got about 3 minutes before people start noticing, she warned. Sophia and Tiago worked together to redirect power from the backup generators, their movements quick and precise despite the pressure. Sweat dripped down Tiago's forehead as he adjusted the circuits, his hands shaking slightly. Almost there, he said. Finally, with a loud hum, the lights and lasers flickered back to life. The audience erupted into cheers, assuming the blackout was part of the performance. Lucas let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Good work, everyone, he said, but we're not done yet. As the team regrouped once more, Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that the rival team was behind the power surge. They had to have someone on the inside, someone feeding them information. But who? The thought lingered in his mind as the third act approached and the stakes continued to climb. Chapter 6, Shadows in the Spotlight. As the event reached its halfway point, the applause of the crowd reverberated through the expansive hall, but the team behind the scenes wasn't celebrating just yet. The setbacks they had faced, sabotage, power failures, and unrelenting pressure, loomed over them like a storm cloud. Lucas, standing at the helm of the control room, scanned the monitors with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Okay, team, he began, his voice cutting through the background chatter. We've made it this far, but something tells me the rival team isn't done with us. We need to stay sharp and anticipate their next move. Raul, still stationed at the power hub, was visibly on edge. I've been monitoring the system, and it's stable for now, but those replacement parts, they've got hidden layers of code. It's like they've planted a sleeper virus. A virus? Tiago blurted out, his face pale. You mean they could shut us down at any moment? Potentially, yes, Raul admitted, but I'm trying to isolate the code and block any external triggers. It's a race against time. Sophia, who had been fine-tuning the lighting transitions for the final act, looked up from her tablet. If they're trying to sabotage us again, they'll wait until the climax of the show. That's when it would hurt the most. Then, we need to be ready, Lucas said decisively. Raul, stay on the virus. Sophia, Marina, focus on the timing and visuals. Tiago, he paused, his gaze softening slightly. You've done good work tonight. I want you to monitor the laser systems and keep an eye out for any irregularities. We can't afford another incident like the power surge. Tiago nodded, a mix of pride and determination in his expression. I'm on it. As the final act drew closer, the team worked in unison, their exhaustion overridden by sheer willpower. Marina adjusted the camera angles to highlight the performers and minimize the reliance on the LED panels, which were still vulnerable. Sophia programmed a series of dramatic lighting sequences designed to captivate the audience, drawing their attention away from potential flaws. Meanwhile, Raul continued his battle with the hidden code. His fingers flew across the keyboard as lines of code scrolled rapidly across the screen. Come on, he muttered under his breath, sweat beading on his forehead. Show me what you're hiding. Lucas observed him silently, his mind racing with contingency plans. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something, that the rival team had one more trick up their sleeves. His instincts told him to prepare for the unexpected. Just as the final act was about to begin, Raul froze. I found it, he announced, his voice laced with both triumph and alarm. They've embedded a remote trigger. If they activate it, it'll wipe the system in seconds. Can you disable it? Lucas asked, leaning over the console. I can try, Raul replied, his focus razor-sharp. But if I mess up, I could trigger it myself. Lucas considered the risk. They were out of options. Do it, he said quietly. We can't let them have this power over us. Raul nodded, his hands steady despite the pressure. The room held its collective breath as he navigated the labyrinthine code, isolating the trigger and attempting to neutralize it. Every keystroke felt like a step on a tightrope stretched over a canyon. Meanwhile, on stage, the final act began. The performers moved with precision and grace, their movements synchronized with the dazzling lights and laser effects. The audience was entranced, their cheers and applause filling the air. Back in the control room, Raul let out a sharp exhale. I did it, he said, relief washing over him. The triggers disabled. A wave of exhilaration swept through the team, but their celebration was short-lived. Lucas noticed something on one of the security monitors, an unfamiliar figure moving through the backstage area. The person wore a badge from the rival team. We've got company, Lucas said, his voice low and tense. Sophia, Marina, keep the show running. Tiago, stay at the laser station. Raul with me. Lucas and Raul left the control room, weaving through the backstage corridors in pursuit of the intruder. The faint hum of machinery and the muffled sounds of the performance filled the air as they moved quickly but cautiously. They finally caught sight of the intruder near the LED panel control station. The man was crouched over a console, his hands busy with a device that appeared to be connected to the system. Hey! Lucas called out, his voice firm and commanding. The man froze for a split second before bolting in the opposite direction. Stop him! Raul shouted, but the man was fast, weaving through the equipment with practiced agility. Lucas and Raul gave chase, their adrenaline surging. The chase led them through a maze of cables and scaffolding, the tension building with every step. Finally, they cornered the intruder near the edge of the stage, where the roar of the audience was deafening. Who sent you? Lucas demanded, his voice a mix of anger and authority. The man smirked but said nothing. Before Lucas could press further, the intruder threw the device to the ground, shattering it into pieces, and slipped away into the crowd. Lucas picked up the remains of the device, his mind racing. He wasn't just sabotaging us, he said, turning to Raul. He was collecting data. They're trying to steal our designs. Raul nodded grimly. We need to secure everything. If they got their hands on our tech, it could ruin us. As they returned to the control room, Lucas felt a mix of anger and resolve. The rival team had pushed them to the brink, but they hadn't broken them. Not yet. The final act ended in a dazzling display of lights and lasers, earning a standing ovation from the audience. The team watched from the control room, their exhaustion tempered by a sense of hard-earned triumph. But Lucas knew the battle wasn't over. The rival team had made their move, and it was only a matter of time before they struck again. Chapter 7, the climax of the storm. The weight of the night had finally begun to feel unbearable. Backstage at the event hall, Lucas and his team stood like soldiers in the eye of a hurricane, knowing that every decision made in the next few hours would define the show and potentially the future of their company. The applause from the previous act had faded, leaving an eerie calm before the storm. The team reconvened in the control room, each member battered but unbroken. Raul's discovery of the rival team's sabotage had heightened their awareness, but they were still racing against the clock. With the shattered remains of the spy's device on a nearby table, Lucas stared at it like a puzzle he couldn't solve. This is it, Lucas said to the team, his voice steady but intense. This last act is the crescendo of everything we've worked for. If there's a final play coming from the rival team, it's going to hit us now. Sophia was adjusting the lighting sequences with a laser focus that matched her name. I've built some redundancy into the lights, she said. Even if one system fails, we can keep the stage illuminated. But if the lasers or LED panels go, it'll be noticeable. Marina checked her streaming setup for the 100th time that night. The live stream is still stable, she said, though the bags under her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. If they attack the feed, there's not much I can do, but I've set up a quick restart protocol just in case. Tiago, standing by the laser systems, seemed calm for the first time all night. The lasers are calibrated and ready, he said. I've triple-checked the alignments. If something goes wrong, it won't be because of me. Lucas nodded, his chest tightening with the realization that they had prepared for every contingency they could think of. Now, they had to trust themselves and each other. The final act began with a soft hum that quickly escalated into a crescendo of music, lights, and visuals. The audience was on the edge of their seats, their excitement palpable even from backstage. The LED panels shimmered with breathtaking images, perfectly synchronized to the performers on stage. The lights cast dramatic shadows and highlights, creating an ethereal atmosphere. The lasers sliced through the air with precision, adding a futuristic flair to the performance. But as the act reached its climax, Lucas's worst fears came true. Something's wrong, Raul said suddenly, his eyes glued to the monitors. The panels, they're overheating. Before anyone could respond, one of the LED panels burst into static, then went dark. A ripple of unease spread through the audience, their murmurs audible even backstage. Marina, switch the live stream angles. Lucas barked. Sophia, increase the stage lighting, draw the focus away from the panels. The team moved like clockwork, each person executing their part of the plan with precision. Marina redirected the cameras to focus on the performers, while Sophia flooded the stage with dramatic lighting that masked the absence of the panels. Tiago amped up the laser effects, creating a mesmerizing dance of light and color that captivated the audience. For a moment, it seemed like they had averted disaster. But then another LED panel failed, and this time, the rival team made their move. Lucas spotted them on one of the security feeds, a group of rival technicians standing near the venue's main power hub, their hands suspiciously busy. It was clear they were trying to cut the power entirely, plunging the event into chaos. Raul, come with me, Lucas said, his voice tight with urgency. Marina, stay on the stream. Sophia, Tiago, keep the show going no matter what. Lucas and Raul sprinted through the backstage corridors, their hearts pounding as they approached the power hub. They arrived just in time to see one of the rival technicians pulling a lever that controlled the main power supply. "Step away from that," Lucas shouted, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. The technician froze, but his hesitation was brief. He threw the lever with a defiant smirk, and the venue was plunged into darkness. The audience gasped, their excitement turning to confusion. But Lucas was ready. "Raul, get the backup generator online," he ordered. Raul moved quickly, his hands flying over the controls as he rerouted power to the essential systems. Within seconds, the lights and lasers flickered back to life, and the performers continued as if nothing had happened. The rival technicians tried to flee, but Lucas blocked their path. "You've done enough damage," he said, his voice cold with anger. "Security will deal with you from here." As the rival team members were escorted out of the venue, Lucas and Raul returned to the control room. The show was in its final moments, and despite the setbacks, it was clear that the audience was captivated. The cheers and applause grew louder, culminating in a standing ovation as the last note of music faded into silence. The team watched the scene unfold on the monitors, their exhaustion giving way to a sense of pride. They had faced sabotage, technical failures, and an all-out attack from their rivals, but they had emerged victorious. Lucas turned to his team, a rare smile breaking through his usual stoicism. "We did it," he said simply, and for the first time that night, the weight on their shoulders lifted. Chapter 8: A Victory in Unity. As the final echoes of applause filled the event hall, the air backstage was electric, not just with relief, but with the lingering intensity of a battle hard fought. The audience's reaction had sealed their triumph, but for Lucas and his team, the journey to this moment was what truly mattered. In the control room, the team gathered around, their faces marked by exhaustion, but brightened with a shared sense of accomplishment. Lucas set down his clipboard for the first time that night and surveyed the group, his team of determined, resilient professionals who had gone above and beyond to save the show. "We made it," he said simply, the weight in his voice carrying a world of unspoken gratitude. Sophia, arms crossed, let out a soft laugh. I didn't think we'd pull it off after everything. But here we are." Tiago grinned, his youthful energy finally returning. "I told you the lasers would be a hit. Did you see the way the audience reacted? They loved it." Marina raised an eyebrow, but smiled. "Let's just be grateful the live stream stayed up. The online viewers had no idea what was happening backstage." Raul, who had been silently leaning against the console, finally spoke. "I have to admit, I didn't think disabling that hidden code would work. But I guess sometimes risks pay off." Lucas chuckled, a rare sound that surprised the team. "You all went beyond what anyone could have expected. Every one of you played a crucial role tonight." Their brief moment of celebration was interrupted by a knock at the door. A member of the venue's staff stepped in, holding a small package. "This was left at the front desk for your team," he said before handing it to Lucas and leaving. Lucas opened the package cautiously, his instincts still on high alert. Inside was a simple note and a USB drive. The note read, "This isn't over. See you at the next event." The rival team's message was clear, they weren't giving up. But rather than feeling intimidated, Lucas felt a surge of determination. He passed the note around, and as the others read it, a spark of unity lit up their expressions. "They're trying to rattle us," Sophia said, her voice steady. "But all they've done is prove we're stronger than they expected." Tiago nodded. "And next time, we'll be ready for them. They won't catch us off guard again." Lucas placed the USB drive on the table, deciding to deal with its contents later. For now, they had earned a moment to breathe, to reflect on what they had accomplished together. He looked around at his team and realized that their bond had only grown stronger through the chaos. "Let's wrap this up and get out of here," Lucas said, a faint smile on his face. "We deserve a night off, preferably somewhere with food that doesn't come in a vending machine." The team laughed, the tension finally dissipating as they began packing up their equipment. Despite the challenges, they had proven themselves as a unit, each person contributing their unique skills to overcome obstacles that would have crushed most teams. As they left the venue and stepped into the cool night air, the lights of Dubai sparkled like a reward for their perseverance. The city that had witnessed their struggles now stood as a reminder of their victory. And though the threat of their rivals loomed on the horizon, Lucas and his team knew one thing for certain. Together, they could face anything.